I saw you three walking together the other day. Your daughter is so cute. Where is she right now? Oh, wait, I get it. You left her at your parents' place so that the two of you can go on your little date. My, you two lovebirds really have it all, don't you? I couldn't believe my ears when I heard this from a close friend whom I hadn't seen in a while. We don't have any children. What? My friend's eyes turned towards my husband, who up until then hadn't said anything at all. Only then did I think of a devastating possibility, and with cold feet and trembling hands, I slowly turned my head to look at him, too. The expression on his face was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. This is the story of how my genuinely happy marriage was quickly destroyed by only a couple of sentences uttered by someone who had seen the truth, and how I gave my treasonous husband the rightful consequences of his actions. My name is Lyra, and I'm a 33-year-old housewife. I'd been married to my husband Carson for 11 years. He's 2 years older than me and worked in an office for a major food manufacturer. We met through an introduction by our mutual friend, Eleonora, long for Ellie. When I was in my first year of college, Ellie and I became very close friends during our time at college. And she was aspiring to be a professional photographer back then and often took pictures of me. Carson had been following her on social media, and after seeing some posts of her best photos of me, he asked Ellie to introduce me to him. We met, the three of us, for coffee and desserts one day, and we all had a great time. Carson and I exchanged contact information, and we kept in touch through messaging. Even through texts, I could tell he was an eccentric guy and very funny. We hit it off right away, and after he invited me to a bar one evening, we started a relationship relatively quickly. After 4 years, we got married right after I graduated from college. Just before I graduated, I landed my dream job at the same major food manufacturer where Carson worked. And I was assigned to the research and development department, where I was able to engage in my dream job of product development. My husband was in the sales department, so we were not directly involved with each other professionally, but we went to work together, the two of us, every day and had lunch together when we both had our breaks at the same time. However, after we were married for 8 years, something changed.
I think I'm going to get a promotion if I work hard enough. I know this is going to be asking you of so much, but I would like you to quit and focus on supporting me at home.
I had never imagined quitting my job, and I was perplexed by how much he was asking of me indeed. As I mentioned, I considered this job my dream job, and giving that up was literally like asking a classic car collector to give up his Citroën DS from 1955. Don't ask me how I know that car is absolutely huge for classic car collectors. The point was that I loved my job with hot passion, and I was worried that becoming a housewife would do two things I didn't want: a boring life and a deteriorating marriage. But I wanted to have children eventually, and I eventually agreed to do it for my husband's sake, so I resigned from my job. Since becoming a housewife, I dedicated myself to doing housework to near perfection, and every day. I made a boxed lunch of love and lemonade for Carson. I devoted myself to his needs to the best that I could. And for a while, life didn't seem to change for the worse, which came as a relief to me. However, we no longer had the time to commute to work together or spend time together at the office as we had in the past. The time we spent together dwindled rapidly, and my worst nightmare of our marriage growing cold was becoming a reality. I felt that I couldn't continue like this, but to make matters worse, Carson became increasingly grumpy more and more often, probably because of his busy schedule.
What the hell is this food? The taste is too mild,
is what he would say after taking but a single bite of his dinner, pouring more sauce over all his food.
This shirt is wrinkled. Are you actively trying to ruin my reputation, Lyra?
In this manner, anyone could say that the marriage was failing, and the excited mood couples usually had when they talked about wanting children was killed immediately. But despite these stifling days, I worked hard every day to support my husband, and one day he came home in a good mood, which was unusual for him.
My boss praised me today for my recent performance. If I keep this up, the promotion's a done deal.
This is great news, honey. You've been working hard for a long time, too. I think you deserve it.
It's thanks to you thankfully resigning from your job and supporting me for 3 years it's allowed me to come this far, Lyra. Thank you. Truly. You have no idea how much your support means to me.
When was the last time I saw my husband smiling so warmly like this? I couldn't help but cry, knowing that my husband's hard work was now finally being recognized, and that what I had done was not a mistake. After that, Carson's work seemed to be going well, because he bought me my favorite sweets on his way home from work and gave me a bouquet of flowers even though it wasn't any particular special day. I decided that now might be a good time for me to pop the nagging question. You know, I'm 33 now, and I think it's time to start thinking about kids. When I said this, his face stiffened for a brief moment before quickly returning to the gentle expression I'd grown accustomed to.
Yes, I want to have a baby too, honey. But this is an important time for me. Can you wait a little longer?
I was a little disappointed when he said that, but I agreed with him. Logic dictated I ought to wait until his life was less erratic before trying to conceive a child with him. I'm sorry, maybe I was a little impatient. I think it's better to wait until you get that promotion and when your work settles down a bit.
Thank you for understanding. What did I do to deserve you?
He held my hand in both of his and smiled at me very warmly. I smiled back. I decided to cherish our time together and support my husband. A week after that conversation, Carson told me he had to go on a 3-day business trip to a branch office in the neighboring city. I thought about preparing 3 days' worth of clothes and other things for him, but he didn't let me do anything, saying he would take care of everything himself. I had always done the preparations for his business trip, so I wondered why he suddenly decided to do it himself. But I decided that it would be better for me because then I could focus more on the house. I saw him off, did some cleaning and laundry, and in the blink of an eye, about 2 hours had passed. I wonder if he arrived by now. I was looking at the living room desk and discovered something that made me really concerned. What's this? It turned out my husband had left his company's cell phone there. He must have forgotten it. I rushed to call my husband's cell phone, but I couldn't get through to him. What's wrong with him? Answer the phone, Carson! I thought to myself and dialed his number again.
Hello?
Carson answered the phone in a hushed voice. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you already at work? I just called to tell you you forgot your company cell phone. I told him in a hushed voice, and a moment of silence indicated he was a little puzzled. Then he said in that hushed voice of his,
I don't use it when I'm on a business trip. I'm busy, so don't call me until late at night, all right?
And then he hung up on me immediately. What was that about? I felt that something was wrong with him, and my heart started to spin a little. Right at that moment, our wedding picture hanging in the living room suddenly caught my eye. I strode over to it and picked it up from off its hook. Those were good times, very good times. The two people in the picture were smiling as if they were the happiest people in the world. I remember Ellie took this picture for us. I wonder if she's doing well over in New York. I smiled nostalgically and stroked the photo frame. Then, as I was about to put the photo back in its original position, gravity decided to be a bitch. I accidentally let it slip out of my fingers and dropped it on the floor with a loud clatter. Oh no! I'm so clumsy. As I was cleaning up the shards of the broken glass frame scattered everywhere, I felt a strange stirring sensation in my heart. Was it my admittedly paranoid sense of karma? Did dropping my wedding photo with Carson indicate something terrible was going to happen sometime soon? If I was younger, I would have definitely had little sleep over the next few nights. But now that I was older and more mature, I knew better than to fret over a simple accident with no divine implications. 3 days after his business trip, Carson returned home safely in an even better mood than usual, probably because he had done well with his work. He even bought me souvenirs, even though he was only in the neighboring city.
Well, Lyra, now I'm sure to get that promotion.
Congratulations, honey! The look of happiness on my husband's face made me forget the turmoil I was feeling at the time regarding how much had changed since we first got married, and I rejoiced with him.
Oh, I know. How about we go out together this weekend? It's been a while since we did something nice together, and I think you deserve something special, given that our wedding anniversary is just around the corner, too. Let's go buy something you want.
Really? I mean, are you sure? I throw my hands up in the purest joy I'd experienced in a while at his invitation to go shopping. And he smiled at me. I'm sure we'd be able to get back to the happy relationship we had before. Maybe he would even think about having children, finally. I thought about the approaching weekend, and my heart swelled more and more with anticipation with every passing hour. And before I knew it, the weekend had come and gone, and my heart was in a flutter. I wonder how long it's been since we went on a date, honey? I asked Carson. I was in such a good mood. And I was talking nonstop. Just at that moment, however, I heard a voice behind me call my name. Lyra, is that you? I turned around to find a woman with a camera approaching me with a growing smile on her face. No way! Is that you, Eleonora? That's right! It's Ellie! Oh my gosh! It's been such a long time! To my great surprise and joy, we ran into Ellie by complete happenstance. We hadn't seen each other since our wedding. The fact she said it so comically, with a genuine laugh, made me doubt reality for a second. I don't understand what she meant, so I asked her, "What? Our daughter?" Yes, that's right. I actually saw her just the other day. And even though I'd only seen her from a distance, she was so cute. You could immediately tell she was so cute. Why didn't you guys tell me you had a daughter, Lyra? I'm sure her answer was meant to clear up my confusion, but in reality, it only made it so much worse. I still had no clue what she was saying, even though I asked her once. And I was getting more and more panicked. Then,
Lyra, we're not done with our shopping yet, right? I think we should get moving.
Carson, who had never said a word before that moment, pulled my arm and turned to leave. Wait a minute, Ellie, could you tell me more about what you saw? What? Evidently, she was puzzled by my question, but perhaps she started to suspect something, because her voice became calm as she explained in detail. So, a week ago, I saw Carson, a little girl, and you walking hand in hand in town. I couldn't see your face clearly because of your hat, but I could see Carson's face, and I recognized him right away. I naturally thought he was out having a walk with his family. A week ago, that was exactly when my husband went on his business trip. Of course, my husband and I never met during the 3 days that he was away, and we don't have a daughter. No way. I clutched at my chest involuntarily as a devastating possibility occurred to me. With cold feet and trembling hands, I slowly turned my head to look at Carson, only to discover an expression on his face that was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. He was dangerously pale, whiter than newly fallen snow, and he was breaking out in a cold sweat. His eyes were swimming, his hands were fidgeting, and his legs started taking steps in place.
No, I was on a business trip somewhere else that day, so you must have mistaken me for someone else.
His face became very tight and obviously suspicious. It can't be anyone else. I took a picture of the 3 people. I know for a fact that the man was you, Carson. I guess it's an occupational hazard. I just take pictures of anything out of reflex, Ellie said as she picked up her camera. My husband pulls my hand hard, determined to not let me see the photograph. But I shake free from his grip and look at the screen. Sure enough, there was a photograph of 3 people. 1 man, 1 woman, and 1 little girl of maybe 3 years old. The man was definitely Carson, and the woman had her face hidden. But I could tell she was a bit darker than I was. Care to explain what this is? I questioned my husband as I stared at him. You were on a business trip that day, weren't you? Is this your job? Who is this woman and this child?
No, this is, I found a lost girl, and I helped her find her mother, and...
Ellie was puzzled for a moment as Carson answered in a slurred voice, speaking jumbled English. But she quickly seemed to understand the situation and launched an attack against him. Carson, answer her properly. That's right, answer me properly. If you really did just find a girl who was lost, why aren't you wearing a suit?
I'm on break at this time, so...
It's 10 in the morning. The time of the photo is always recorded, so it can't be disputed. A 10 a.m. break? How can you take a break that early when you're traveling all the way out there on business? And weren't you telling me that this business trip was crucial to get that promotion we'd been hoping for? Seems to me like you lost motivation to succeed professionally. We took turns firing difficult questions at him, implying he had been unfaithful to me. He suddenly turned on us.
What's the matter with you two? Are you seriously that keen to make me look so bad?
My anger reached its peak right as he raised his voice himself. What's with that frickin' attitude? Tell me the truth. I'll know if you're lying. She'll know you'll be lying because we have photographic proof. This evidence will render all your excuses completely irrelevant, Carson. You have nowhere to run. Admit defeat and spill it. I'll ask you one more time. Who is this woman and who is this little girl? If you can't answer me, I'll spread this picture around, find the girl, and ask her myself. Of course, I wouldn't do that in real life, but I was desperate to know the truth.
I've been having an affair with this woman, and that little girl is my daughter, Hillary.
Carson, perhaps out of his misery by my statement, finally became reasonable and began to tell me the truth. He hung his head and spilled all the beans, and it sounded as though he was having difficulty saying the words. The truth was far more shocking and devastating than I'd imagined, and I felt dizzy and almost collapsed on the spot. Ellie immediately caught me and managed to keep me from collapsing, but I still found it hard to breathe, and I found myself hyperventilating. Lyra, are you okay? My husband didn't even check on me as he kept his head down and continued talking.
We've been in a relationship for 5 years, and 3 years ago, she got pregnant.
3 years ago, but that was when you asked me to resign from my job.
Yes, it is. She is a woman working in the same sales department as I do, and I knew it was going to be darn near impossible for me to move forward in the relationship with you around, so I asked you to resign.
My vision blurred at these words. So that's why you've had a bit of a troubled look in your eyes when I said I wanted to have a baby. I couldn't hold back a single tear as I said so.
I lied about my business trip a week ago, because how could I tell you I wanted to spend my daughter's birthday with my family?
Your family? Your true family is right in front of you, Carson! Ellie was yelling at him on my behalf, and frankly speaking, it was the only thing that was saving my sanity right then. If I had to endure this situation alone, I don't think I would have been able to go through with it. Lyra, dear, I suggest you cut ties with such a man as soon as possible, Ellie said, dragging my reluctant husband along with us. And we headed straight for my in-laws' house. Half an hour later, we arrived at my parents-in-law's house in the neighboring city, and we immediately showed them the photographs that Ellie took and told them everything that was going on. This man, your son, has been betraying Lyra for 5 years and even went so far as to have an illegitimate daughter with another woman. Do you have any idea how Lyra felt when she found out the truth? I never thought that my own son would do such a scandalous thing.
You stupid son of a bitch!
Mrs. Montero burst into tears while Mr. Montero got furious and hit my husband, and the shock sent the bastard crawling at my feet.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
He staggered up on all fours and clung to my feet, begging for forgiveness. Seeing this pathetic appearance of his, I wondered why I had stayed with such a man for 15 years. 11 of which were spent married to such a scumbag. I regretted ever meeting him from the bottom of my heart. They say that one shouldn't frown about something that ended, and should instead smile because it happened. But I'll be honest, when the person you trust the most stabs you in the back in this way, it makes you wonder if all the memories and experiences we'd had together meant just as much to him as it did to me. It might have all been an act for him, while for me, it was all as real as the tears running down my cheeks. There's no way I'll forgive you. I'll make sure you pay for your sins, I told him coldly as I pulled my foot away from his desperate grasp. I'm glad I didn't get pregnant with your child. Mr. and Mrs. Montero bowed their heads in apology before me, as they asked me to leave my husband at their house for today. I didn't want to be there any longer, so I agreed. Ellie and I then headed back home. On the way home, Ellie didn't say anything. She only had her arm around her shoulders, gently caressing my upper arm, and stroked my hair. 2 weeks later, with the help of my in-laws, Carson and I were able to get a divorce right away. I decided to file for alimony not only against him, but also against the person whom he had an affair with, of course. There were many factors that increased the amount of alimony on his part, such as the length of my marriage with him, the duration of the affair with the other woman, and the existence of an illegitimate child. In the end, I was able to claim $30,000 from my ex-husband and an additional $10,000 from his lover. Eleanor apologized for introducing me to such a pathetic man, but I want to emphasize that she did nothing wrong. In fact, it was thanks to her that I was able to discover the affair and the illegitimate child in the first place. And my gratitude to her for that is something I will never forget in my life. My business with Carson was done, however. Ellie couldn't forgive him for what he did, so she sent the photographic proof of his affair to his workplace, which quickly caused rumors of his infidelity. As a result, he lost his promotion, and according to a former coworker with whom I kept in touch even after I resigned, he and his lover resigned voluntarily because they couldn't stay at the company anymore due to the mounting pressure. After that, my ex-parents-in-law told me that when Carson and his lover started living together, things didn't go as well as they'd hoped, and they were fighting every day until the woman just disappeared one day, leaving the child behind. Carson couldn't raise the child by himself, so he went back to his parents' house and begged for help. They initially tried to kick him out, but Hillary had absolutely no fault, and they began to pity her for being born into such a broken family. They decided they couldn't leave their granddaughter in such a scumbag's hands, so they promised to take care of her until she reached adulthood. As of now, Carson lives a very tight life with his parents watching over his every move. They said they would kick him out and disown him when Hillary came of age, and finally...
We're really sorry about what happened, Lyra. We wish you all the happiness in the world.
I feel a bit better about the situation now that they apologized to me and wished me well. I wished them well too, and I genuinely hope Hillary grows up to be a bright, beautiful, responsible lady. Sorry to keep you waiting. You're late. Ellie now lives at her parents' house, and I started seeing her more often recently. Her mother's back had apparently healed completely, but she was getting old, and that worried Ellie, which eventually drove her to come back to live in her parents' house. She got a job at a nearby photo studio. I've been busy looking for a job since my divorce, but my old boss at my old job was concerned about me and introduced me to essentially the same job as the one I'd left. I can't wait to work there. I immediately told Ellie about the job offer, and we got together today to celebrate. Hey, let's go on a trip sometime. I'll take some super nice pictures. Oh, hell yeah, great idea. Let's go. I'm going to enjoy my new life as much as I can. Wish me luck, everyone.